Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 20th of January, and well, as we've talked about it, some things are coming home to roost, so to speak, would be the easy way to describe it. Is it catastrophic yet? No. I mean, we're still at the 45-20 range, but look, once we had that move down towards the 50%, it was just a matter of waiting for that catalyst, which was the NBI moving forward. We had already seen that we weren't getting any support from short-term buyers. We're already elevated here, just kept going back and forth. This is that the DOC steel right there. And shorts modest within this setup. So that's always a problem when you don't have a huge short activity and you obviously have a rotation of buyers looking for safety. And as rates rise, is something I talked about, why we were looking at our TLT, the treasuries, because as that yield goes up, people are going to move to safety. Even if the yield is still quasi close to negative when you factor in inflation in that, it's still a lot less expensive than watching equity being eroded through declining positions. And DOC red continuing its fade. Not much help there, but once we had the NBI white moving over red, clear catalyst once the 50% value broke, and we talked about that number previously. It was at the 46.46 range, and then, of course, we had the 46.13, which is previous algo. We talked about the fact that likely we were going to be retracing this lows. We did that, so tried to make a push back up, got close to 38%, and that 46.13 wasn't even able to get there. 46.03 was the best it could do, which was below both 38 and that's when the selling started, and no end in sight. So that was pretty demonstrative, because this is something we talked about. The NASDAQ had been underperforming for quite some time in this, and the pink bar just shows it all clearly. It's just continuing to cascade, and that's because we had NBI white leading this whole way. You've heard me talk about it. Those pivots of magenta below the 25 level are ugly, and they rarely perform well. Once it broke the 23%, the 0% was locked in, and we even had numbers on the Skype chat who knew that that was what the expectation was. May have taken a half day longer or whatever, but now we've broken into new lows on the NASDAQ, and that's still ugly. So that's not a turnaround in any way, shape, or form. Euro certainly isn't helped by that in any way, shape, or form, because their situation isn't any better, though. Interestingly, the UK just announced the realization that you can't continue where things are going, and they've just removed all of their mask mandates and all the other restrictions associated with COVID, because you have to move the economies back, and as long as you keep perpetuating fear in that, people freeze, and when they freeze, consumer spending, everything just starts to plummet, and it's exponential. And this was that cascade effect that I told you that people rarely take into account, and we've seen it play out in decades past, and when you don't understand how that dynamic works, you get burned really fast, and then everyone thinks, well, just keep buying the dip, and it's like, well, at a certain point you're going to run out of liquidity to do that, and that's when things will really get interesting. I don't think we've reached that point, maybe close. The response from gold, they expected. Shot there. It's taken a while. It's been behind the curve on that one, but this oil situation devastating for that, because it's complete decoupling. This last time we saw this was back in 2007, where oil prices and that, because oil is not going to suffer devaluations and things like that. So it's going to escalate and continue to do so based on that. It's not really about supply and that. Now you throw in some of the saber rattling that's going on in Ukraine and some of the other locations around the world, and you've got the catalyst for some real panic setups. And here it is, the TLT continuing to drop, and as I said, I'm expecting a move down towards the 120 range. 124 would typically be what I would be looking at, so it's still holding on fairly nicely. This expectation that the Fed is just going to come in and bail everything out continues to persist, and that's the belief, and I think that the people are still holding on to that one. So there's a desperation that that's going to be the catalyst, and at some point when that fades, you get a whole other scenario that's going to play out, and it's going to be reminiscent of what it was like in 07, 08, where you had these fall-offs and then sharp bounce-back rallies, and it continues to soften as the reality becomes very clear. Bitcoin held up quite nicely under all that pressure, and not surprisingly so. It's kind of reaching that equilibrium. As long as it can stay above that 39 range, it's going to do all right. If it breaks that, you could have trouble across the board. Even Ethereum's held up pretty well, though quite significantly when you think about from where the highs were and the outstanding move. But again, Aranda is very clean on capturing each of those little pop decline setups. So perfect from that standpoint. The short took place here on the 50K from the 23% all the way to the zero. So that's exactly on line from that setup. From the GAM setup, could have gotten out a little bit sooner on that, and I'll probably be checking what I can do to adjust on that one, because that magenta reading from right up there when the magenta broke below, good opportunity to adjust those readings on that one to give that a real even a stronger sell, just to improve its performance, so to speak. Here's where 50K is ending as we speak, all the way down to that 4520 previous algo, and kind of supported pretty closely right off that. But as we go back to the beginning of the day, we had quite a few interesting setups. I mean, it was pretty extreme here, where we started off really deep down in pre-market. That caught a bid, and everything looked like, okay, we're saved again. And as that continued to boil across, we started then getting a little bit more of the white spikes, and the last one coming right here. So it's just a matter of once it dipped below, red moving above started it, and that really became prominent when we had that pivot right here underneath the 25 with the magenta below yellow and white spikes above red. That was the start, and it was just a couple of bars from there that began the first wave down. They tried to buy that one, but it was pretty decent from a buy standpoint. Held up fairly good until the same situation. Breaks below 25, white NBI above. Held on to that one for a little bit longer, and then did it right here again, below the 25 level, white above red, and we began that last cascade that just saw no recovery. Every attempt turnaround just continued to break down, and every time there was an attempted poppy at red leading, that's not going anywhere, and that led to exactly where we were. So all in all, it's pretty clean from what we're seeing from our expectations, and in line with that hyper volatility that I think is only going to expand itself as you have a lot of plays with deep in the minute calls and stuff that are going to be starting to expire, things like that really add to the catalyst. And so with all the gamma and different approaches, because so much more has been done in options recently in the last couple of years than ever before, and that creates a zero-sum game. And we've seen a lot of losing situations starting from before Christmas all the way through to now, and that tends to beat some people up pretty seriously. So this is where you have to start really paying attention to what those readings are on a daily basis, and then obviously from that 50K standpoint, looking at that, not a whole lot of bright spots. That doesn't mean that we're not going to see some significant rallies within these setups, but overall it's just a matter of going off that daily to the 50K and then down here to the 5K level. We see it all happen before, and we're able to adapt to it in real time. So very exciting stuff. As always, though, I will continue to update you on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.